to the last episode of 2008 here at Cavalier Family. As you already know, this is going to be the show that details the top 5 movies of 2008, something that I really remember, as well as I know Ro has remembered as well. And we'll go ahead and start off the show as we always do. We are an independent studio, and on the show, what we will be doing, we'll be discussing life entertainment, where each month is a different year and each week will be a different topic. So far, we've covered cartoons, we've covered music, we've covered TV shows, and now it's movies. We'd also like to thank Kevin Holmes, who did the intro and outro, Justin Dye, who created many of the musical elements, as well as our researcher, Stephen Dawson. As far as updates go, there has been no updates as of right now, other than the fact that what we would love for you to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to anywhere that you hear podcasts, because showing support is much appreciated. And as far as comments go, if you comment down below to let us know the next year that you want to see us do, that is definitely appreciated. Or if you have anything else to say or share, or if you have a favorite movie, because that definitely helps the YouTube algorithm. As well as our store, the online store. The link is down below. Go ahead and purchase a tee. The Stop Human Trafficking tee is still there, where all the proceeds do go to Stop Human Trafficking donations. So get yours in the shop. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and start. And we'll start with Ro and seeing what's new, what's popping.
Hey, nothing much, man. Just watching, the Lakers lose and don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah, who are they playing?
Today they're playing Timberwolves, Minnesota Timberwolves.
Okay.
They haven't been on a great run anyway, so.
That is valid. So anything else new? Any updates?
Besides me moving to Oceanside area, not much.
Okay. Well, best of luck with the moving and stuff like that. You ready to start the show?
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
All right. Well, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and start off with the update. Well, not really an update, but as far as the fun facts go, it will be the last fun fact for this year, which number 5 of the fun fact is the Olympic gold medalist and world record holder Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt. Yes, it's my it's my flabbermouth, really, because remember, etc. I mean, that was an issue too. So Usain Bolt ate 100 chicken nuggets a day, 1,000 total, and still managed to win 3 gold medals while competing and staying in Beijing, China. So that's actually kind of fascinating. I mean, remember that time when we went to McDonald's and we ordered 15 McNuggets?
Yeah.
And I think both of us, I think we ate 25 each, right?
We did.
Yeah. That was fun, but I don't think I've ever eaten that many chicken nuggets ever again.
Nor that I would want to.
All right, dude. Well, did you want to start off with the top grossing movies? As far as, did you want to start us off with the list? Or you want me to do it?
It's the one with Dark Knight, right? Dark Knight.
Yep.
Iron Man.
Yep. So of course, honorable mentions are.
Yeah. The honorable mentions are, of course, Kung Fu Panda, which was a great movie. That was the first. One. It was pretty good. And then you have Twilight, which I've never seen.
You don't need to.
Yeah. 007 Quantum of Solace, The Incredible Hulk, and I think that was the latest one before they changed to the new guy, right?
Yeah, so The Incredible Hulk was basically, the rights with The Incredible Hulk is that Marvel cannot do a solo Incredible Hulk movie, since after that one, the only time that he could show up is in like a group, basically.
Yeah.
So that movie right is actually owned by Universal. In addition to that, too, is it had Edward Norton, which, if you look at the credits, um, Edward Norton, I don't want to say co-wrote because technically he didn't. I mean, technically he did, but he kind of forced his way to co-writing some of the scenes on set as well. So his name is not Edward Norton; it's something else. And the other thing too is the end credits where it shows Thunderbolt Ross, may the actual actor rest in peace. And Tony walks into the bar trying to recruit the Hulk, um,
Mhm.
which left a lot of people question that because who is he actually recruiting? Um, so yeah, those were just a few fun facts. Obviously, we have Mark Ruffalo now, who was the second runner-up before. Well, actually, he was the second runner-up to Edward Norton. So if Edward Norton said no, Mark, we would have had an early Mark Ruffalo, anyways.
Yeah. And then Mamma Mia, never seen it.
Mm-mm.
Tropic Thunder, Indiana Jones, and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
I've never seen any of the Indiana Jones movies.
Seriously?
Never.
Dude, you should. You really should. The game Uncharted,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of inspired by Indiana Jones and many of the elements too.
I've played the game on PS4, but never watched the Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah, they were good all the way up till Crystal Skull. We'll definitely see how the new one comes into play because, as far as I know, is they're done with the production and filming. Shia LaBeouf is not in the new one, which it's a little unfortunate because I'm one of the few people that enjoyed him in there. But Tropic Thunder, though, is one of the movies that can never be remade ever again
Yeah,
because
of course.
of the jokes and everything that I actually had in it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, did you want to start off with number one, or you want me to do it?
Go ahead.
All right. So for number one, for the top five movies, IMDb rating for 9.0, directed by Christopher Nolan, is The Dark Knight. It starred Christian Bale, Heath Ledger, Aaron Eckhart, Michael Caine, Maggie Gyllenhaal, Gary Oldman, and Morgan Freeman. Apparently the budgeted movie was 185 mil. It grossed 1 billion worldwide. Now, apparently, while filming, there's a chase scene on a street named Lake Street in Chicago. The Chicago Police Department, they received a lot of calls from concerned citizens stating that the police were involved in a vehicle pursuit with a dark vehicle of unknown maker model. So apparently during the filming, a lot of people called the actual law enforcement because of what was going on. Which, I mean, could you imagine? I think they called it the tumbler, didn't they? In the movie,
the one that
Batmobile.
yeah.
Yeah, could you imagine though seeing the tumbler like just whiz past? I mean, I remember when you
But I've
done.
seen the I've actually seen the Batmobile.
Yeah.
Yeah, out here in Warner Brothers Studios, they have like a Batman like museum, you would say almost, where they have like all the Batmobiles and Batman mask and everything out here. It's pretty dope.
That's awesome.
I highly recommend people going to watch it
Well, I know the
or going to see it.
the backlot tour is one of the things that I've always wanted to do is just to see that. But I do know that when you lived in Miami, the story that you told me was the fact that they're filming Too Fast, Too Furious, and they shut down the highway for, you said.
Yeah, I actually remember that. That was down my street. It was the highway that we used. Yeah.
You said 2 weeks it was shut down?
No, it was shut down for probably a couple days. I remember because I remember getting seeing it in the mail, and it was saying that the highway was going to be shut down because they were going to film a movie.
Did you ever see any of the cars or anything?
Yeah, like there was people like walking by, like there was like this one area where like they have a street on there now that leads to the highway, but where you were standing, you could actually walk out to the field and just watch everything go by. Like it was pretty dope.
That's awesome. That's really
Uh,
cool, especially since that was a different version of Fast and Furious too.
yeah,
Um, so let's see here. As a lot of us already know, Heath Ledger, of course, did a very different manner as far as method acting for his role as Joker.
yeah.
One of the fun facts from IMDb, it states in preparation for his role as a Joker, Heath Ledger hid away in a motel room for about 6 weeks. During this extended stay of seclusion, Ledger delved deep into the psychology of the character. He devoted himself to developing the Joker's every tick, namely the voice and the sadistic sounding laugh. For the voice, Ledger's goal was to create a tone that didn't echo the work Jack Nicholson did in his 1989 performance as the Joker. Ledger's interpretation of the Joker appearance was primarily based on the chaotic, disheveled, probably running that word, look of punk rocker Sid Vicious, combined with the psychotic mannerisms of Malcolm McDowell's character, Alex DeLarge, from A Clockwork Orange, which, of course, if you've seen A Clockwork Orange, it's very based on a book. It's a very deranged movie and a very deranged character as well. And of course, it's actually banned in England. I don't know if it still is now, but for a long time, I do know that was banned in England. Um, and of course, Heath Ledger did experience a lot of sleeping issues after the filming. That's where his, ODing on medication came into play to help him sleep. Did you
Mhm.
ever watch A Clockwork Orange?
No.
So it's basically set in a European, like a British dystopia, kind of.
Mhm.
And it's about a group of friends that go out and they just wreak hellish havoc on, like, they break into people's houses. I can't really say the R word here, but that happens in the movie too. um and then other issues go and coincide with the fact of him getting arrested and then him being like a psychological guinea pig, basically, for the government. So it's a
Mhm.
very twisted work of art, or a movie anyways. But let's go away from the twistedness. And do you want
Mhm.
to go with number two?
Iron Man. It was directed and screenplayed by John Favreau. Starred Robert Downey Jr., uh, Gwyneth Paltrow, Terrence Howard, Jeff Bridges, and John Favreau himself as Happy Hogan. It was budgeted 140 million, but grossed 585 million worldwide. Uh, Marvel didn't want Robert Downey Jr. to play Tony Stark because of Robert Downey Jr.'s past, as they wanted Tom Cruise. However, John Favreau fought alongside with Kevin Feige for Marvel to approve Robert Downey Jr. as the leading role. Terrence Howard left the franchise due to the pay difference between him and Robert Downey Jr. See, I heard that. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the phrase "I am Iron Man" was an uh, ad libbed line by Robert Downey Jr. The script wasn't fully finished while filming, as majority of the dialogue was ad lib.
See, I didn't know that one.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. It was like, we're not done, but we'll just go and see what comes
but
out.
it just brings so much more to the actor's ability to kind of enhance the character, kind of like really dive into the character as well with that. And I do know with the I am Iron Man line, it was ad-libbed. And when Avengers Infinity War, was it? No, Endgame came out. And with Tony Stark saying, well, first Thanos is like, I am inevitable. And then the original scene was Tony just snapping his fingers. But during the production, well, I'm sorry, during the cutting of the film, the Russo brothers were like, something's missing, something's missing. It just doesn't feel right. And the guy who was editing, who was cutting it, was like, why not just say I am Iron Man? So it was actually a last minute ad to where, Thanos says I'm inevitable. And then Tony says, and I am Iron Man. And he snaps his fingers, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Kevin Feige has done so much for Marvel Studios, like chalking up from this and all the previous Marvel stuff that he's done. Like he's had his hands on it for so long. And I mean, it's the staple, even though Disney didn't actually, have any ties with Marvel after they bought them until the Avengers movies. Um, I honestly am curious on what would have happened if Disney didn't buy them. Like, would they still be successful? Which I'm assuming it probably would, because I mean, look at the other movies.
Yeah. They did pretty good.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, if Kevin Feige truly had his way, like I do know that there's a lot of times where he has fought Disney. For an example, the RDJ thing. I mean, that wasn't Disney's issue, it was Marvel's issue, but just shows that, Kevin Feige will fight for what he believes in.
Yeah.
But Kevin Feige has fought a lot, especially with, Spider-Man, with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Like it was a dream, but they didn't think it was happening or going to happen. And then it left it up to Kevin Feige. And the Russos basically just, fighting to have Spider-Man in Civil War. And even during that whole debacle with Sony and Disney / Marvel before the what was it, No Way Home came out. So it's interesting to know the history of this. So as far as number 3 goes, it looks like it's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Yeah, that made it to number 3. IMDb score is 6.1. Of course, directed and screenplay by Steven Spielberg. It did star Harrison Ford, Cate Blanchett, Shia LaBeouf, and Karen Allen. Now, a few fun facts here. When Indiana Jones was driving a truck through a wall during filming, it looks like, unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. The time explosives were used, but one explosive did not go off and landed on the seat next to Harrison Ford. So could you imagine that oh shit moment? Just, driving along, breaking through a wall. Oh, look, there's an explosive right next to me. It's pretty ridiculous. And then, of course, the testing where Indiana Jones finds himself in a loosely based Operation Teapot atomic bomb test for the nuclear bomb of 1955. It detonated on the Nevada test site. Most notable is the use of buildings and mannequins to observe and destructive force of the explosion, which was also featured in the nuclear bomb test in this movie. The announcement and countdown preceding the explosion are based on the Ivy Mike test of 1952, the very first detonation of the hydrogen bomb, most notably the warning, do not remove goggles or face blasts until 10 seconds after the first light. So I didn't know. I mean, I can kind of see how that would have been, testing, just because of the fact that World War II and stuff like that. So I do know that there's been a lot of testings as of right now. The largest, from my understanding, the largest nuclear bomb testing is the Soviet Union, so Russia. Their cloud is apparently really huge, bigger than the US, to the point where, from my understanding, is Russia they were going to do 2 tests. or try to do two things. One was going to be underwater, and the other one was going to be like the big one that they have right now. Um, and either the UN or another organization stepped in between that, and basically they ruled out the underwater one because in a way it could like create tsunamis and stuff like that. I mean, that's my understanding, but if I'm completely wrong, I mean, that's where you guys come into play. If you're listening, drop us a thing in the YouTube comments, post it on our social media, which we can be found on all social media. But tell me if I'm wrong. Let me know what I'm wrong on. And if you have links, you know, a lot of those things are educational and interesting. So love to hear it. Number 4, I'll let you do because I know that's a big movie for you, or you like at least.
Yeah. Hancock. Hancock was funny, like funny and romantic kind of. But it was directed by Peter Berg, starred Will Smith, uh, Charlize
Charlize Theron.
Theron, huh?
Charlize Theron.
Charlize, yeah, Charlize Theron, and Jason Bateman. The budget was 150 mil, but grossed 629 billion worldwide. The uh, the original screenplay was much darker. Apart from being a low life, Hancock was supposed to be sexually frustrated because he couldn't have sex with a woman without killing her. The MPAA actually cleared a scene involving Hancock's explosive orgasm, which I've seen, because uh, I've seen the movie with one in it and one without. That scene is not in there, but it was removed from the final cut because the test audience didn't find it funny. The tone was lightened considerably for a summer release aimed at a wide audience, but the MPAA gave the film the rated an R twice before the language and violence cuts resulted in a PG-13. The original title was Tonight He Comes. The script, which floated around in Hollywood for over a decade, was later retitled John Hancock. Then they finally retitled Hancock. Dave Chappelle was seriously considered for the lead.
Okay, so
I can see him doing it. I'm
okay.
gonna say that right now. Dave Chappelle, I
Mhm.
couldn't see him doing it.
Why so?
Uh, I like I there's a light that I have for when it comes to Dave Chappelle,
Mhm.
and remember he was in excuse me. Remember he was in the Nutty Professor.
He was in Nutty Professor. He was also in the Undercover Brother as well.
Yeah, and he was also in Blue Streak,
Mhm.
but like he keeps comedic roles in everything that he does, and in Hancock it was, yeah, it was comedy, but it was also like it was like love scenes, like, you know, emotional scenes, and I just can't see him doing it, to be
So,
honest.
so go ahead and explain that scene that they cut out. Like what? I never have seen the scene that was.
So he takes a girl back to his trailer, and of course they, you know, start having sex, whatever, and um, blowing a load, it shoots through the top of the trailer, um, the trailer, the trailer home, and just leaves a hole in it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, so kind of like the boys in the way.
yeah,
Yeah, I could definitely see that in the boys. See, it's kind of interesting because I would like to see that version. Like for me, I like to see different versions of movies, like what was originally supposed to be and what we
yeah,
ended up. Like the Snyder Justice League movie. Like what we ended up seeing is nothing compared to how great the Snyder cut version of
Yeah,
Justice League is.
yeah.
So I'd like to see that one. Like that, it seems like
I
fun.
mean, you can find it because I'm pretty sure I seen it just watching it on a like random. I think I probably watched it on something else.
Like
Like
YouTube.
no, it wasn't YouTube because I was watching the actual movie and that part came up and I was like, and I remember telling myself, I don't remember seeing this. Like I don't remember seeing this, in the actual movie. So I'm pretty sure it's out there. It's out there. They probably just have some versions without that scene.
Right. Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, that's valid. All right. So, last but not least, coming at an 8.4 on IMDb, directed by Andrew Stanton. It starred Ben Burt, Lisa Knight, Jeff Garlin, Fred Willard, and Sigourney Weaver. Um, if you don't know this film already, it is a Pixar film, and that is WALLE. The budget was 180 million, but it grossed 521 billion worldwide. It is the first Pixar film to be nominated for 6 Academy Awards. Uh, this ties it with the only other animated film to garner this many nominations, which was Beauty and the Beast in 1991. I didn't know this, but apparently the name WALL-E stands for Waste Allocation Load Lifter Earth Class. And then EVE stands for Extraterrestrial Vegetation Evaluator. So I had no idea. They probably say it in the movie, but
I've never seen it.
You've never seen WALL-E?
Nope.
It's interesting. I do know that a lot of the voices for the characters, it was all computer generated, basically, because it does take place 700 years into the future, as Andrew Stanton's belief of what could happen if people don't take care of the environment properly.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, in some cases I can understand. I mean, we still have that large garbage location. I can't remember, I think it's off of the Pacific where it's the size of Texas. So we still have that. I don't know if it's still the size of Texas, but I know for a long time though it was the size of Texas. So I mean, you have that crapshoot going on, and then of course you have all the metal pieces and all the stuff that's floating around the atmosphere too. So I mean, obviously, it needed to take better care, yeah, but I don't really see us getting to that point for a long time, anyways. So, no, I mean, if you have a moment, if you have nothing to watch, I would say watch it.
I
But
won't.
okay,
I
I mean,
honestly
if you have
won't.
to watch any of them before WALL-E, at least watch Indiana Jones. I mean, you have iconic lines, you have iconic.
Yeah. Okay. No, I can see it because it's a 2008 version.
Yeah, I mean, okay, not Kingdom of the Crystal Skull though, because I know you haven't seen Star Wars either. So, so at least watch at least one, the very first movie, Indiana Jones. If you don't like it, okay, don't have to watch any of them. I just say just at least give it a chance, just once.
Why not Crystal Skull though?
Dude, okay. So Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I do know that with a lot of the Indiana Jones movies, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, they like to keep it somewhat historically accurate. So the Crystal Skull itself is based on like a true narrative in a way. Obviously, characters are not true; it's all fictionalized, but the story itself, the premise is true, because it comes from archaeological findings and stuff like that. Um,
Mhm.
but with the movie, there was just so many weird things that didn't need to happen. Like at the very end of the movie, they get the Crystal Skull and you see a UFO fly out of the forest. Like that's something I remember watching it in theaters, watching that in the movie theater and seeing that happen. I'm like, that kind of just ruined the whole thing for me. because it completely took it out of its element. Because if you think of Indiana Jones, you think of an archaeologist, kind of like Jurassic Park, right? You
Yeah.
have Ian Malcolm, and then you have, of course, all the other characters and Grant, Dr. Grant. And when you think of Indiana Jones, I think of like Dr. Grant, right? Archaeology, findings, historic, stuff like that. When you add
Mhm.
a scientific element to it, like a UFO, then it's just two different crossovers that doesn't really need to happen. Yeah, you know, you had Indiana Jones fighting Nazis. Okay, fantastic. You know, punch a Nazi in the face. 1942, World War II, boom, great. You have Search for the Holy Grail. There's a
Mhm.
biblical aspect to that. Okay, great. But it's all about historical findings, all about archaeology. Um, but also, the other thing that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull didn't have going for itself was the usage of campy moments. Like, for an example, Shia LaBeouf's character, he gets kicked off of the vehicle that he's, you know, fighting. I think it was, whose character was that? I believe it was Charlize Theron's character, where, you know, or not Charlize Theron, sorry, Kate Blanchett's character, where he gets kicked off of the vehicle, and then all of a sudden these monkeys and stuff are in the forest, and then he starts swinging from vines like a Tarzan. So it's like, okay, that doesn't fit in there as well. So there are just moments like that that they should have just and could have cut
Left
out.
them.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but I mean, we'll see how the next one goes. But yeah, if anything, just watch the first Indiana Jones one, especially if you want to see a Nazi get punched in the face. It is fantastic. Um, so yeah, and with that in mind, of course, that comes to our conclusion and ending of the show. Again, go ahead and hit that subscribe button in YouTube, or, you know, subscribe to us on all the social media. Follow us on all social media platforms, but also subscribe on all podcast platforms as well. We can't thank you guys enough. Again, be sure to check out the store, because with every shirt bought, it supports us and keeps us doing what we love to do. So with that in mind, we can't wait to see you and hear from you guys next week. The year is TBD, so be on the lookout for that announcement. And with that in mind, you guys have a great night.